Hey guys, and welcome back to Buff's Vintage Bikes. So this is going to be more of a makeover video rather than my typical restoration videos. This is a Rosa Giro d'Italia, built from Columbus eel tubing and painted in the classic Batik del Monde color scheme. It was a professional team that raced from 93 through to 97, with one of their star riders being the classy Evgeny Berzin. The bike is sporting a mixed group set of Shimano RSX and Tiagra, the likes of which should never be seen on a bike of this quality, not to mention that green bar tab. So the brief was simple: give it a new paint scheme in a classic Rosa color and replace that group set with a Chorus 9-speed group set. So the normal process before stripping the frame is to document all the sticker placements, all the decals. As you can see, I've got my sketch drawn up and I've made notes of anything that I need to take note of. Luckily this bike's not going to be a replica, not color wise anyway, but we do want to get the decal placement in the correct spot. Also want to take note of what is colored in on the painter. So this little heart over here, the top of the brake bridge is white, so we want to replicate that. Also important to note what's going on under the bike. So you can see the BB has got the Rosa in white over there, so I obviously want to replicate that as well. Something else that's a little unusual on this eel frame is the chainstays that are actually diamond shaped. So if I can get in there, you can actually see how they've been compressed over here to form this diamond shape. And then the lug is gusseted, the back of the lug over there. So that diamond shape sort of tapers out back to round at the end of the chainstay. Something cool to see is the Rosa stamped into the rear dropouts. Let's strip this paint off and see if there's some chrome under this. Chrome fork on a Rosa is never a bad thing. And there we have it, a lovely chrome fork. Now just to put it on the polishing wheel, get a few of these minor scratches out. And I think we're going to leave this bike with a chrome fork. Purists might be horrified that I've clamped this tubing in my work stand like this, because EL tubing is extremely thin. So you generally want to avoid this, but I know it, so this bike is very, you can have a look here, you see how loose it is. You do not want to put pressure on this tubing. So to give you a little bit of a tubing history for those that don't know, that tubing, let's see if I can zoom in on it. That's Columbus SL tubing. You can get an idea of how thin that tubing is. If I actually put enough pressure on this tubing, I can feel it bend under my thumb. So EL tubing in some places is 0.3 mils. You could, if you pressed hard enough, actually dent this tubing. So be super careful when working with it, especially in a stand. I've actually, on a previous race bike of mine, I had a water bottle fall out of my mouth, flip upside down, and the top of the water bottle hit the top tube and dented it. So that's how soft EL tubing can be. And on that note, you can actually see there's a dent in this tube over there, which I suspect was from the handlebar. At some stage in his lifespan, flipped around and knocked it. So we'll have that sorted out. So time to get some of these decals off this paint. And for this particular frame, I'm going to strip it using paint stripper like I did with the fork, because I suspect this entire frame is chromed. So I don't want to have it blasted and that chrome damaged. So I'm going to go through that process now, and we'll have a look at the finished product. So I climbed into the frame with paint stripper, and sadly I can see where the chrome stops. So the frame isn't entirely chromed, which is what I was hoping for. You can see it stops just at the stay over here, at the chain stay, and halfway up the seat stay as well. So I'm assuming the rest of the frame is probably going to be steel and not chrome. pity. Right, so I'm just masking up this rear stay. So we're going to send this frame for blasting now. I was thinking of not blasting it, but some of this paint around the seat post area is proving a bit more difficult than I'd like it to. So I'm going to take it in and get blasted, but I want to protect these chrome bits on the bike. Back in the workshop with a freshly blasted frame, looking rather beautiful with those clean lugs. You can see all the brazing work on the frame and the quality that work that's been done on it. So now, time to lay down one coat of an etch primer. That's just to stop future rust problems with it. And then over that etch primer, I'll lay a 2K primer as well. And then that will allow me to work that primer back to a smooth finish. So that's the 2K primer laid on the frame. We'll flat that back once it's dry, and that'll give us a great base to start painting the frame. Time to sort out those two little dents in the top tube. I'm using a normal automotive filler, which I'm adding a hardener to, and then just applying them to the frame, allowing it to dry and flattening it back. Yeah, I've actually gone through the 2K primer, but luckily I haven't gone through the etch primer. So just before I put base coat down on the frame, I'll actually spray paint 2K primer back over those spots, just so that I don't have filler coming through my base coat, because that will obviously ruin the base coat. Back to the 800 water paper, flat this frame back till it's nice and smooth. It'll have the base coat looking really good when it gets applied. And always remember those 7 P's. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance. A mantra a mate of mine used to preach in our adventure racing days, and it honestly does work. So here's a look at the blue that's going to go on this Rosa frame. How beautiful is that? Cannot wait to see what this looks like on the bike. Finally, time to lay down that metallic blue. And I just started and made a rookie mistake when I had the air cap on my spray gun block and it wasn't delivering the volume I wanted. You can see me fiddling with the gun. But once I got that sorted, it went on beautifully. If you have any masking on your project, it's always a good idea to remove it about 10 to 15 minutes after you've spray painted. That's just to stop the paint from drying and then cracking when you actually take the masking off at a later stage. That's the frame flatted back, ready for final clear coat. You'll see it's rather dull, but that'll change as soon as that clear hits it. Now to get started on adding the decals. Now is also the time to refer back to that sketch that I made when I started the project. Shows me all the distances where the decals need to be. Something worth noting when you're adding decals to a down tube is that very seldom on a bicycle is a decal slap bang in the center of a tube and wrapped around. This is because you don't see the bottom part of the decal, because you're normally standing higher than a bicycle and looking down at it. So most of the decals on the bikes are added slightly off center at about that, so that when you stick the decal on, you can actually see the decal clearer. And something I figured out just through experience is that it's almost the exact size of a standard strip of masking tape. That if you put a standard strip of masking tape down the center of the tube and use that as your guideline, it almost works out perfectly to where the decal should be. So I'm working from the middle outwards, applying pressure now. so that I make sure that I get no bubbles underneath this decal. This is the first time I'm using decals from Monde, and I'm quite impressed. They're very thin, which is obviously great when you're applying a clear coat. You get a much better finish on it, not those sharp ridge lines. One down, a few to go. So using the Kemper pen, I'm going to fill in the detailing on this Rosa engraving. It's going to be a bit tricky because there's engraving here that's actually narrower than what the nib of the Kemper pen is. But I'm not too worried about that because of the clear coat that's on this frame. If I go outside the line, I can always go back afterwards and just clean it up. Gently take a blade and scratch it off. So we'll do as best a job as we can over here, and then go back later and do the cleanup. So cut and polish time. I use 2500 wet and dry paper. Give it a spray. Give your frame a spray. So you want to rub this out just to get rid of that final orange peel that might be on the frame. And then you're going to hit it with the polisher and get it all feeling nice to the touch. So once you've done with the cutting, time to polish it. So I use a product called Glisten Nitro Step Wax. Gives it a nice gloss. Buffing pad. Time to dress this gorgeous frame in a new set of clothes. So it's getting rebuilt with a Campagnolo Chorus 9-speed group set, and mated to that is a Campagnolo Vento wheel set. And I think the silver on the group set and the silver on the wheels will set off this metallic blue beautifully. If you've never ridden a bike built out of Columbus eel Nivachrome tubing, I can highly recommend it. These frame sets were popular in the mid-90s towards the end of the 90s, mainly for their lightweight and their superb ride quality. This particular frame weighs in at 1.72 kgs, and my Bianchi that I have weighs in at 1.65 kgs, which was light for the time. And if you decide to invest some money into one of these frames, you can get it sub 8 kgs depending on what parts you put on it. Also keep an eye out in the new year on a restoration video that will be dropping on a lovely South African built Lejeune, built with Reynolds 753 tubing. I was fortunate enough to get my grubby paws on a bike sporting a full Shimano 600 group set, and I'm currently busy fighting with the stuck seat post on it, but I'm hoping to launch that video in the first quarter of the year, so it might be worth subscribing so you get notification of that particular video. Also in that video I'll be doing a giveaway. That is to celebrate going through 3,000 subscribers. Actually, it's already at 3,500 subscribers, which was very unexpected for a little channel which I started during lockdown. So my long-time favorite cycling lubricant company, Smooth Lube, here in South Africa, has kindly stepped in and given me hampers to donate. 2, possibly 3 hampers that I can share with you. And as I close out this video, here's just wishing you and your families a wonderful and blessed festive season. If you're taking some time off, enjoy it. I hope you get to work on some of your projects as well. Go out there, save a classic bike, give it a new lease on life, and ride the wheels off the thing. That's what these bikes were made for. You'll notice with my restoration videos, my bikes get restored to be ridden. I don't believe in wall hangers, although I know some people do, and I suppose there is a place for them. But for me, if a bike has lasted 30, 40, 50 years and it hasn't fallen apart, you ain't gonna make it fall apart now. Get out there and enjoy it. Like music to my ears.